Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Reese Motorsports, Corey's Garage. Another episode brought to you by the Franken-7 project. Forgot I had my safety glasses on. Safety first, guys. Better watch yourselves. Um, I didn't get quite as much done today as I wanted to, but I got to spend a lot of time with my son today, so that was really good. Um, what did I do? So I went on a parts run earlier today and just picked up some nuts and bolts of things I needed. I actually worked out a trade deal. So the intake manifold that's been on the engine was a aluminum Speedmaster with an 85 millimeter throttle body. It's a good intake. I've read a lot of mixed reviews online. Some people like it, some people don't. When I got it, the price was right. It was a little bit cheaper than some of the LS6 setups I was looking at. Um, and so I kind of jumped the gun and got it and was planning to roll with it. I mean, it was all there. The only thing was the hardware I got with it was Allen head bolts, and they were a little too long, so I did go today and get correct size bolts, just hex head. And then I was talking with a gentleman from the RX-7 pages on Facebook. Sorry, I'm scratching my belly. It's quite itchy right now. I was talking to a gentleman from the RX-7 Facebook pages. Sorry, trying to get the glare out. And he's in Connecticut, and his name is PJ. And he's got a LS6 manifold that's just been sitting in a box that he's not doing anything with. And he offered to trade. So in the regards of trying to get everything to fit under the stock hood without having to cut a hole in it, that was very appealing. And from everything I read, the LS6 intake manifold is one of the best flowings there are as far as cathedral port heads go. So yeah, we worked out a trade deal. So I've got mine boxed up, excuse me, ready to ship out tomorrow, and he's going to do the same thing. So we're basically trading manifolds, and obviously we just have to pay our prospective shipping. I didn't really have a whole lot of packing material. I've been trying to save some of the stuff from the parts that I've got in, so I had a little bit of bubble wrap, and I messaged him and said, you know, please don't think I'm trying to send you a box of garbage, but I literally have plastic bags, paper envelopes, unused baby diapers that were my son's that are too small. Just anything I could to just, you know, pack it up best I can. I'm not a shipping agent, so I don't have rolls of bubble wrap just hanging around. But anyways, I think I got it fairly decent. Yeah, so I'll be getting an LS6 intake manifold here soon. So I can still use my fuel rails and all that good stuff. My injectors came in the other day, so I'm excited to get those in. I had everything mocked up last night, minus the injectors, and I can get it to work. And it looks all right. If you follow me on Facebook, you probably saw some pictures I updated. I've been trying to do the video, and while it uploads, I make a post, and then when I wake up in the morning, the video is loaded, and then I just edit the post and post the link for the video. So I wasn't even going to make a video tonight, but then my buddy Andrew down in South Indiana put a little fire under my rear end and said that basically I'm beating him in the race. We're kind of unofficially trying to at least get, he has multiple project cars, mind you, but we're both trying to get, you know, our project cars done this year. He's working on an NSX, which is way more over my head than I care to go to. That's a lot of detail for a very high dollar, very 90s car. I mean, it's going to be sick when it's done, like sick, but that's more than I care to source out, you know, $1,000 headlights. And he mentioned when I first met him something about trying to find like the original car phone that came in it. Like, whew, I mean, I just got a stripped out FC that I'm trying to make look error correct with a modern LS power plant. So going for simple and reliability. Now he is doing a J swap in his because I guess the original C32 or whatever the NSX engine code is I guess it was already gone when he got the car, and there was like an Acura Legend single overhead cam engine in there with no VTEC. Um, so I guess he worked it out. Anyways, he's got a nice J32 or J35 swap, I forget. So it's supposed to be pretty sick. So it'll be really neat to see that come to fruition, to sound fancy. But so tonight I'm kind of just temporarily at a standstill as far as here. I'm just gonna sit down and just avoid that glare altogether if I can. Put my phone right here on the toolbox. I'm gonna stay still. Still enough. Sorry, there's not an earthquake. I'm just trying to balance my phone on my toolbox and it not fall off and shatter. Where was I? Oh, so what I was doing today, or this evening rather, I did get a few parts in. I got my 3-inch Y pipe in today, and I got my stock FC transmission crossmember in today. So here soon, or I guess I probably could anyways. I can go ahead and do my if I wanted to bolt up the engine and the trans in the new adapter kit, and I can start mocking that up, and I might do that tomorrow. But you know, I still needed to address the fuel lines and brake lines. More like delete the rear brake line, at least coming out of the master cylinder. So when I went on my hardware run today, I was able to find the proper size, just a little block off nut. I'll show you that in a second on the master cylinder. I was going to do a little. I couldn't find my thread tape, probably at work. And then I thought, well, I could mix up a little JB Weld and throw that in there. But it's like, man, if that goes wrong, like that's basically permanent. Like there's not a whole lot of digging that stuff out. So I kind of met in the middle, and I just just coated the block off bolt plug, whatever you want to call it, with some RTV, and put that in the master cylinder, so that's curing. So that should block off the rear brake line port, if you will, off the master cylinder. So it's just going to be front brakes 100% on the pedal, and then of course I've got an ASD style hydraulic handbrake coming soon that's going to be the rear brakes. So I went ahead and got underneath there tonight and ripped out the rear brake line, the I guess it's the charcoal canister vapor tube line, and the fuel lines from basically from the hoses at the sending unit all the way forward, and remove the factory fuel filter assembly. So the garage is stinking right now of that old, dirty, nasty, crusty turpentine gas smell. If anyone has worked on an old car that sat for a long time, you know that smell. There's two smells in the automotive world that are quite stanky, and most people do not enjoy. One is gear oil. It just stinks, and I guess they put additives in there so you can smell it when it's leaking. So kind of like natural gas. And then of course old, bad, rotten fuel. It just stinks. There's just no other smell like it in the world. It's just awful. So my garage is kind of stinking right now. I guess it's from the fuel filter. Nothing's leaked. It just stinks. So anyways, so I'm trying to decide. Like, I thought there would be like high pressure fittings and stuff under there. It's just those little spring clamps coming off the hoses from the sending unit. So I don't know if I want to make hard lines, and of course, you know, replace those hoses back there. But I don't know if I want to make a hard line or hard lines going all the way to the front and back. I guess that would probably be the better deal, or just run a straight tube all the way, you know, just hose and wire it up good. The only reason I'm thinking hose is, one, it's a lot easier because you don't have to bend any tubes. You just kind of either zip tie it, or, you know, figure out a solution to maybe P clamps to, you know, hang it up high enough off the ground, and and then since it's rubber, it won't necessarily, rust or corrode. Just over time, that rubber will dry and potentially crack and potentially leak, and that could be an issue. So I guess for safety purposes, I'll make hard lines. So I'll need to get a roll or two of what is the brake line size? I'm sorry, the fuel line size. I guess 3/8, and then the brake line is 5/16, something like that. And I've got a few little fittings left over from just different places I've worked doing brake lines and stuff. So yeah, so I got the fuel lines out, the crusty nasty old fuel lines and brackets and all that stuff. Went ahead and took off the rear brake caliper since I had the lines off. Was shopping around. They're still available. They're just harder to find. I wanted to go, all new or reman basically. I didn't want to rebuild any of that. Just I'd rather pay a little extra and just it be done. Plus, I think both brackets have a bolt broken off in, or I know one does for sure. So it'd be nice to have some fresh brackets. I'll get some fresh grade 8 bolts, and I've already got brand new drilled slotted rotors and sport pads, and then I've got stainless lines coming this week. So the brake system should be perfect and safe. And then the fuel line, I've got my C5 Corvette filter regulator combo that's here. So I'll be mounting that probably either in the location of the stock fuel filter or maybe up on the firewall, somewhere where you can access it. But it's a pretty cool little setup. I got one that actually has AN adapter fittings, so that should be pretty cool too to get that set up. So let's see. So yeah, so blocked off the rear brake line port on the master cylinder, remove the rear brake line, remove the rear vent line for the charcoal canister, and remove the hard fuel lines and the crusty nasty little brackets and stuff in there. So I guess that's all right. And then I just got done. I was price shopping around for their calipers. Like I said, you can still get them, but they're not in store, and they're not a lot of these places. You can order like Advanced, O'Reilly's, AutoZone. You can order and they'll ship it to your house. But all three places do not have that option. They actually say on the website to call the store, and it's a special order. So I got the part numbers from O'Reilly's site. They were the least expensive. They're all reman calipers, all new brackets, all that good stuff. I think most of the hardware comes with it too, which is really good. So I think it's like $348 before the cores are taken out. So I guess how I'll do it is order over the phone, give them the part numbers, and then when they come in, I'll have the front calipers off too, and I can just go and swap everything out and get $100 off or 120 or whatever it is. So it should end up being only about maybe like $250 to $300 for 4 brand new calipers, and the front lines are okay. Obviously, they're up in the engine bay and they've been painted. They're not rusty, but the rears were starting to get a little crusty around the little rear, whatever you want to call it, distribution port, T port. Basically, it's a T, so you have one line going into a T, and then it tees off to the left and right side. So I will do a similar setup, but instead of coming from the pedal master cylinder, it's going to come from the handbrake. So that'll be for a little drift duty, and basically I don't have to hook up like a line lock or anything. So that'll be cool. So yeah, so I'm going to ship out the my old intake tomorrow, and hopefully the LS6 intake will be here soon, and then I can button up the engine at least. I did order last night. I was talking about doing the front mainsail, rear mainsail. Went ahead and got those coming from Rock Auto. I wasn't going to do it today anyways. I mean, I guess I could have, but figure I'll do those at once. So I got those coming. I got a special Wix oil filter coming. I don't know if I want to run that for like it was a fancy filter. I mean, it's still only like $6, but I guess I'll run that for the break-in. or the break-in. It's an old engine, but it does have new parts. So, and then I'll probably do, you can get synthetic Mobil 1 for like 22 bucks for a 5-quart jug at Walmart, which is not bad. So I'll probably run that for, maybe a couple hundred miles. I don't know if I want to do just put cheap oil in it for the first startup and let it run for, you know, 15, 20 minutes and then drain everything out and change it again and put good synthetic in, or run the synthetic for like maybe 500 miles and then change it out and maybe run Royal Purple or something like that. I want the additives that they put in there, and I wouldn't even mind adding something extra, but I just want all the bearings to be coated and all the clearances to be good, and then also want it to clean out, the places that I couldn't clean out, like the windage tray and the back side of the timing cover. Of course, I can clean that with brake cleaner, but places like that that are just going to have mileage and gunkiness. The heads got cleaned pretty well for what I had to work with. I also ordered the. It was funny because when I was at the parts store today, I brought my truck alternator and truck starter, and I was going to use those as cores to get 300ZX starter and Camaro alternator. And it was more expensive to get reman alternator even after the core is removed than it was. I found a new alternator on eBay for, I think it was like 74 bucks, and then the starter was like 93 bucks, and they're both brand new. So I mean, that's why I like eBay. I know a lot of people, you're pretty much laughed at and scoffed at if you use eBay parts on your car, but I mean, there's so many companies out there now that, like, CX Racing sells crap on eBay. ICT, billet LS parts you can find on eBay from them. It's just a venue for kind of extra internet sales. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I think in my entire history of using eBay parts, the only time that it was a problem, okay, 2 times. Once I ordered some sort of intake, I think, for a 240SX I had, and it came as I guess it was an Evo intake, so just it looked like a 2-stroke dirt bike muffler. It was like a skinny inlet, fat outlet intake pipe, I guess, for the turbo on a DSM or something. And then before angle kits were a thing, and I had my S14 with RB20, I had hit a wall at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway and bent my control arms. And for whatever reason, all these auto parts stores, I guess they thought that S13 and S14 control arms were the same, and they were not. And I kept getting S13 control arms, so I kept getting like positive camber and just steering issues. It just didn't drive right. So then I got one of the first eBay sets of tubular control arms, and tried to get some sort of like race alignment from Sammy Tiger down in Doraville in Georgia. And he said they were okay. They weren't that great of quality, but they would probably work. But I remember there being like binding issues with those control arms. But again, that was before the steering angle kits were even a thought. I think people were just starting to experiment with cutting their tie rod pickup points on knuckles and starting to weld them up. And that was, before that, that was experimental. That was when that very first started. So anyways, I'm starting to ramble on. And again, we're almost at 20 minutes. That's just how these videos go. So sorry, not sorry. Anyways, let's see. So I still need to get some fresh spark plugs. I still need to, I got some hardware to just kind of reinforce the motor mounts. There's 2 holes on each side that just need a nut and bolt ran through them. So I got little short M10 or M12, I forget what they are, bolts and nuts to just kind of lock down. I'll throw those on before I go to bed. And I got M8 bolts for the actual bolts that go through the motor mount and the cradle. So I got, or actually the 10.9, the metric version. So I guess they're supposed to be better than grade 8. I just, something like that, I did not want to skimp out on, and I did not want to chance an old, leftover GM bolt. So, yeah, so we got those taken care of. And yeah, so the engine's almost ready to go back together. I mean, it's together, but I'm saying just, the front end parts. I test fitted, if you saw the pictures, and I might have showed you last night, but test fitted the water pump on there and the truck alternator. Um, the mounting points on the block, I'm curious because you see these ICT billet like alternator relocation kits that puts it kind of down low next to the crank pulley, but there's two ports in the block that they're already threaded, and when you look at the pictures online, it looks like the plate. I don't know if it pushes it forward or if it. I'm not really sure what the purpose of the plate is. If the alternator is designed to be bolted onto the block directly, why do you need the little bracket thing? Other than spacing, but even so, you could use washers and space it out and use a longer bolt, and I would imagine it would work just fine. So we'll see. The alternator is going to be here, I think, Thursday or Friday. So we'll see. Hopefully by then the front cover will be on. I'll put the water pump on officially, and the tensioner pulley, and then I have an idler pulley, so I'll have to figure out where that needs to go. And then yeah, then I'll order up a belt, and the front end will be done. I did find my steam port tube in a box, which is good, and the tube that or the hose that goes to that. For some reason, that was one of those stupid little things I kept worrying about, but I'm not worried about it anymore. Trying to think, I found my the front little coolant temperature sensor that goes in front of the cylinder one primary exhaust port. Or I guess just exhaust port. I'm thinking RX-7 language now. So I found that. I found my front cam angle sensor or cam position sensor. So that was good, and just a few little leftover nuts and bolts. And I found a box of nuts and bolts, which was great because I was trying to remember where they were. And I found my coil pack brackets, and I still have some red AC Delco ignition wires. I may or may not try to reuse those. I would like to get fresh coils, just to have fresh coils, and sand and paint these coil brackets, and just have those ready to rock and roll. I'll need the I guess the rest of the hardware to put those on, but yeah, it's moving right along. I think my tires are supposed to show up tomorrow. I was checking on eBay to see where stuff was. My harness, I found out, is the thing that's in Canada, so that's in Ontario right now. It's on its way down. But the computer's here, the MAF is here. I ordered a little like engine starts, like ignition on, like a little switch panel with a push button start. I had one of my old 240, and then I saw that today, and I kind of found it by accident, but I was like, ooh, that's pretty cool. So I'll be able to, turn the key at least to unlock the steering column, and then I'll have ignition on a toggle switch, fuel pump on a toggle switch, and then I'll have a push button start. So that's cool, because I'd rather have it that way than have to go under the hood, pull a fuse, turn it over a few times, because I will do that. The first crank up, I'll turn it over, no fuel pump, and just build up oil pressure that way, just make sure there's no leaks or anything. But that'll be cool. And then I guess I'll do like a battery box, behind like the passenger seat area, just to maybe kind of help balance out the weight a little bit. Yes, I would love an Optima battery, but I don't want to spend $500 on a battery. I'll just get a good old-fashioned whatever. Because I forgot where I worked at, but talking with them and doing a little research, pretty much there's only 2 battery manufacturers, and they just sell to everyone, and everyone puts their stickers on them. So I want to say it's either Duracell and Interstate, or I know Interstate's one. But anyways, there's only like 2 automotive battery companies, and they sell them to people, and they put their stickers on. So you go to Toyota and you get a Toyota battery, you're actually getting like a Duracell. You go to Ford, you're getting a Duracell. You go anywhere, you're getting a Duracell or an Interstate. And so I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on a battery. Although it is cool that they're dry cell and you can turn them upside down and you don't have to worry about any acid. So we'll see. But anyways, I'm already at almost 25 minutes. So that's all I got for tonight. Real quick, I will show you these nasty, crusty lines. And I'll show you, well, I don't know if you can see it, but here's the brake master cylinder, and here is the little block off plug I stuck in there, and there's my basically what's bypassing the rear brake lines and just having the front brake line on. So that's cool, and a little union fitting. Here's the engine. It's now without the intake manifold because I'm trading, as I said. There's some parts. There's a few things. There's a few more parts. And then here's my nasty crusty. I got to look at the camera, make sure I got it. That's the feed and return line in the rear brake line. And you can see at the back how crusty it was. So for all you kids that are getting into cars and you want an older car like a 240SX or an RX-7 or something like that and you're in the Midwest and you don't know any better, just be aware if you look underneath it, not only to check the the condition of the floors and rockers and stuff like that, but look at the brake lines and the fuel lines, because more than likely, even if everything looks pretty good and the body's not too rusty, the lines and stuff like that might be, and you might run into a potential safety issue. You go to stump on the brake pedal for emergency stop, and the pedal goes to the floor, and all your fluid goes out the crack in the line, and bad news bears. Or you go to start it up and you smell raw gas, you might have a fuel line leak. So just stuff to be aware that, and every single nut and bolt underneath it's going to be rusty and it's going to fight you and you're going to hate your life. But that's neither here nor there. Sorry, I'm just a Georgia boy and I never had to deal with rust until I moved up here. So hopefully that won't be the case forever. But it does make me really, really appreciate the work going into this car, because I really am doing like a restoration type thing for it. So yeah, everyone have a great night. Hopefully we'll have some updates for you tomorrow.